What if I told you that the next time someone takes a verbal jab at you in public, you could respond with such confidence that not only would they never target you again, but you might actually transform them from an enemy into an ally? We've all experienced that sinking feeling in our stomach as we scramble for words, anything to say back, but nothing comes. However, 3 hours later, when we're in the shower, the perfect comeback finally arrives. That moment when time seems to freeze, everyone's eyes are on you, waiting for your response, but then your brain decides to take an unscheduled vacation. I'm not just talking about clever comebacks. I'm talking about those moments that chip away at your self-worth, that make you question yourself long after the conversation ends. Those moments that keep you awake at night, replaying what you should have said. However, stay with me until the end, because I'll share the single most devastating response I've ever used. One that completely transformed a workplace bully into an ally without a single harsh word. Trust me, it's not what you expect, but then it changed my life in ways I never imagined possible. Let me tell you about what happened to me last year at my company's holiday party. I had just completed a major project that saved our department thousands of dollars. I was feeling pretty good about myself until Jason from accounting loudly said across the table, "Nice work on that project. Must be nice to finally contribute something after coasting for so long." The table went silent. Everyone looked at me, but then I did exactly what most people do. I laughed awkwardly, muttered something about doing my best, and quickly changed the subject. However, inside, I was devastated, not just angry at Jason, but deeply disappointed in myself for not standing up to him. I felt small, powerless, like my accomplishments meant nothing. For days afterward, I kept replaying that scene in my head, thinking of all the things I should have said. I avoided the break room, took a different route to my desk, all to minimize the chance of running into Jason again. However, it wasn't the first time something like this had happened to me. That's when I decided enough was enough. I needed to learn how to handle these situations better, not to be mean or aggressive, but to reclaim my dignity and self-respect that I'd been giving away piece by piece, interaction by interaction. Before we continue, I want you to do something right now. Think about the last time someone said something that made you feel small or embarrassed. Really feel it. Remember the sensation in your body, but then in 10 seconds, what would you say if it happened again today? How did you do? Was your mind racing? Did you come up with something brilliant, or did you draw a blank? Did you feel that same knot in your stomach just thinking about it? Whatever happened, keep that feeling in mind as we continue. What I discovered changed everything for me, therefore it might for you too. Every time we swallow our words and let someone else make us feel small without responding, we're not just losing face in that moment, we're surrendering a piece of our self-worth. We're silently telling ourselves, "I don't deserve to be treated better." We tell ourselves we're taking the high road by staying silent. However, here's the uncomfortable truth. Real confidence isn't about avoiding conflict. It's about handling it with grace and intelligence. It's about honoring yourself enough to say, "No, I won't accept this treatment." But then, let me ask you this. How many times have you noticed that the same people keep targeting the same victims with their comments? It's not random. They instinctively know who will push back and who won't. They can sense it, like predators sensing fear. Here's something that might shock you. In a study of workplace dynamics, researchers found that people who occasionally push back against negative comments receive 37% fewer critical remarks over time than those who always stay silent. That's right. Responding effectively doesn't escalate conflict. Therefore, it actually prevents future instances. When you stand up for yourself, you're not just addressing the current moment. You're reshaping how people will treat you for years to come. Before I share the strategies that transformed how I handle these situations, let's look at the 3 biggest mistakes most of us make. Mistake number 1, the fake laugh. We've all done it. Someone makes a cutting remark, but then we laugh along as if it's the funniest thing we've ever heard, while inside we're dying a little. Here's the problem. When you laugh at yourself in response to someone's attempt to embarrass you, you're essentially saying, "You're right, I am ridiculous." You think you're diffusing the situation, however, what you're really doing is inviting more of the same treatment. Therefore, each time you do it, something inside you shrinks a little more. Mistake number 2, the desperate explanation. No, that's not what happened at all. Let me explain. Sound familiar? When we rush to explain ourselves after someone takes a shot at us, we're unconsciously accepting their premise that we've done something wrong or embarrassing. The more you explain, the more power you give to their original comment. But then the deeper you dig this hole of justification, the smaller you appear, both to them and to yourself. Mistake number 3, the frozen statue. This was my specialty. Someone would say something cutting, but then I'd just freeze. My mind would go blank, my mouth would go dry. Therefore, I'd stand there like a deer in headlights, feeling the weight of every second of silence crushing me. While staying silent might seem dignified in theory, in practice it often comes across as defeat. However, that feeling of "I should have said something" can haunt you for days, even years. I'll let you in on something I don't usually share. This pattern affected me so deeply that I once turned down a promotion because it would have meant working more closely with someone who constantly made me feel small. Think about that. I literally limited my career because I didn't know how to handle these situations. There were nights I came home and cried about it, not just because of what happened that day, but because I felt trapped in a pattern I couldn't escape. I felt powerless in my own life. That's the real cost of not having these skills. It's not just about awkward moments. Therefore, it's about how these moments shape your choices, your opportunities, but then ultimately your life. Remember Jason from accounting? 6 months after that holiday party disaster, we were in a team meeting when he tried the same tactic again. He said, "Well, if we're looking for ideas that'll actually work, maybe we should skip your turn." However, this time I was prepared. I didn't get angry. I didn't laugh awkwardly. But then I smiled, looked him directly in the eye and said, "You know, Jason, I've noticed you tend to criticize others when you're feeling unsure about your own contributions. Is everything okay with your project?" The room went silent again. But then this time, all eyes were on Jason. He mumbled something and quickly changed the subject. That moment was transformative, not because I won the exchange, but because for the first time, I held my ground with composure and intelligence. I felt something I hadn't felt in years, pride in how I handled myself. Therefore, Jason never targeted me again. So how did I go from a person who froze in these moments to someone who could handle them with confidence? I developed 5 specific strategies that I'm going to share with you now. Strategy number 1, the spotlight reversal. When someone tries to put you on the spot, the natural instinct is to defend yourself. However, the most powerful move is to calmly turn the spotlight back on them. For example, if someone says, "You always have the strangest opinions on everything," instead of defending your viewpoint, try, "That's interesting coming from someone who hasn't shared an original thought in this conversation. What's your take?" This works because it shifts the pressure back to them, shows you're not intimidated, forces them to actually contribute rather than just criticize. The first time I used this effectively, I felt like I had discovered a superpower. That rush of standing your ground without being aggressive, it's incredible. Strategy number 2, the calm mirror. This strategy involves reflecting their energy back to them, but with more poise and intelligence. If someone makes a sarcastic comment like, "Wow, brave fashion choice today," instead of feeling self-conscious, respond with, "Thanks for noticing. I've always admired people who pay such close attention to others' appearances." Very detail-oriented of you. The key is to maintain a friendly tone while subtly highlighting their behavior. Try this right now. Say this response out loud, but with a genuine smile and relaxed tone. Feel the calmness in your body as you say it. Notice how different it feels from saying it with anger or sarcasm. The delivery transforms this from an attack into a subtle boundary-setting moment. Strategy number 3, the power pause. Never underestimate the power of a well-timed pause. When someone says something designed to embarrass you, try this. Take a breath, make direct eye contact, hold the silence for 3 to 4 seconds, which will feel like an eternity. Raise an eyebrow slightly, but then simply move on with the conversation as if they'd said nothing at all. This communicates volumes without saying a word. It says, "I heard you, I'm not affected. Therefore, what you said wasn't even worth addressing." I'll be honest, this one was the hardest for me to master because it requires real emotional control. However, once I did, it became my favorite. There's something incredibly powerful about denying someone the reaction they're fishing for. Strategy number 4, the humor shield. Humor is perhaps the most disarming tool in your arsenal, not laughing at yourself in agreement, but using wit to deflect. If someone says, "I'm surprised you're brave enough to share your ideas after what happened last time," you might respond, "I'm full of surprises. You should try it sometime. Might make your conversations more interesting." The humor shield works because it shows you're quick-witted, demonstrates confidence, diffuses tension for everyone else in the room, often makes others laugh with you, not at you. You know what's funny? When I first started practicing these techniques, I actually wrote down potential comebacks on note cards and reviewed them before social events. I'd literally had cards for if someone comments on my appearance, or if someone dismisses my ideas. Sounds ridiculous, right? But then here's the thing, I was terrified of freezing up again. I would practice these responses in front of my bathroom mirror, trying to get the tone just right. My roommate caught me once and thought I was losing my mind. However, it worked. After practicing those prepared responses a few times, my brain started generating them naturally. Sometimes the path to authentic confidence starts with little preparation and a lot of bathroom mirror pep talks. Strategy number 5, The genuine question. Sometimes the most powerful response is a sincere question that makes the other person reflect on their behavior. If someone makes a cutting remark, try looking at them with genuine curiosity and asking, "What were you hoping to achieve by saying that?" Or, "That's an interesting thing to say. What made you think that was appropriate?" This strategy forces them to explain their rudeness, often leads to an apology, shows others that you're the mature one in the exchange. What I love about this technique is that it's not about clever wordplay or being quick on your feet, it's about calm authenticity. Therefore, sometimes the simplest responses are the most powerful. After practicing these strategies for several months, something unexpected happened. The frequency of these uncomfortable situations actually decreased. It wasn't that people suddenly became nicer, it was that they recognized I wasn't an easy target anymore. Therefore, I felt different inside. That constant anxiety about what clever thing someone might say next and whether I'd be able to respond, it faded away. That tightness in my chest before social gatherings loosened. I started to enjoy interactions again instead of dreading them. I realized that true confidence isn't about having the perfect comeback for every situation. However, it's about knowing that whatever comes your way, you have the tools to handle it with dignity. Remember when I mentioned there was one technique I'd share at the end? Here it is, what I call the unexpected ally. This technique is different from the others because it's not about the moment of confrontation, but what you do afterward. The next time someone tries to embarrass you publicly and you successfully handle it with one of our strategies, do something unexpected. Approach them privately later, not to confront them, but to say something like, "I noticed our exchange earlier seemed a bit tense. I value our relationship while you working together. Therefore, I wanted to check if everything's okay between us." This does three powerful things. It shows tremendous confidence and emotional maturity. It often reveals that their behavior came from their own insecurities or problems. It positions you as someone who cares about the relationship despite their behavior. When I did this with Jason, yes, the same Jason from accounting, I discovered he was dealing with severe imposter syndrome after a recent promotion. My project's success had inadvertently triggered his insecurities. I'll never forget the look on his face when I approached him privately. First confusion, but then shame. However, finally, relief. In that moment, he wasn't my workplace nemesis anymore. He was just another human being, struggling with his own demons. That one conversation transformed our relationship completely. He went from being someone I avoided to becoming one of my strongest advocates. Share your own experience in the comments, or better yet, tell me which strategy you're most excited to try. But then remember, mastering these techniques isn't about becoming someone you're not, it's about becoming more fully who you truly are. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.